USA versus Russia in Colwyn Bay is proudly brought to you by Hyundai New Zealand.
Noswaith dda a chroeso, a very good evening and welcome to you as tonight North Wales joins the global action as the IRB inaugural International Rugby Series kicks off here at Arias Park. Colwyn Bay is hosting 5 World Cup teams over this weekend and the next, with Tonga, Samoa, Russia, Canada and the USA battling it out for IRB ranking points. And churches, myths and legends, clean sandy beaches and breathtaking scenery. That provides the backdrop to this inaugural International Rugby Series. The town of Conway, along with Llandudno on the coast of North Wales, some 150 miles north of the capital Cardiff, was once a lavish Victorian coastal retreat. The glorious coastline of North Wales joining the Irish Sea, with plenty to attract viewers, and nowadays, well, food products from this area exported to all parts of the world as everyone gets to know Wales and North Wales in particular. But tonight it's international rugby, and the first game tonight will be that between the Bears of Russia and the Eagles of the United States of America here at Arias Park, or locally known in Welsh as Parc Arias in Colwyn Bay. My name is Wayne Griffith. I'm joined by former Wales prop Chris Horseman, who's also the head coach here of the RGC team, which is Rugby Gogledd Cymru, North Wales Rugby. Chris, welcome. We're looking forward immensely to this new innovation from the International Rugby Board.
Oh yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I mean, I'm really looking forward to the games, you know, to see the first one, USA, Russia, 2 contrasting styles. Really looking forward to see, you know, if the pace and the athleticism of the Americans can cope with the physicality of the Russians. But on a sort of big note for us in North Wales, this is a huge event. You know, to know that we've got the infrastructure now to hold these international matches is absolutely fantastic.
So the stage is set at Parc Arias. Tremendous facilities here at Arias Park Inn by Colwyn for the local side, as we welcome the teams then of Russia and the United States of America. Led out by youngsters from the region. The region encompasses an area from Holyhead, the ferry port of Holyhead in the west, virtually to the English border, and overlooking the Dee estuary as far as Liverpool. So close are we to Liverpool that we have a Welsh name for the city, Lerpwl, and where thousands of emigrants went to America all those many years ago in the 19th century in all parts of the world. So it's a proud moment for these youngsters as they lead the teams behind their respective flags onto the field of play. And I'm glad to say, Chris, that the rain has abated somewhat from the showers that we had earlier on today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, knowing when I do the training sessions out here, I know how vicious that wind can be. I think it's great that we got the conditions. I mean, the pitch looks absolutely fantastic. I know Colwyn Bay Borough Council has spent a lot of time making sure that the pitch is playable for this game, and I think it will definitely help that the winds die down and the rains drop so we can actually see what these teams are made of, rather than it just being a game based on who makes the fewest errors.
So the teams line up for the national anthems.
United States of America. United States of America's national anthem.
The singing of the anthems is always a heartwarming experience for the players. So it's all change. The referee for tonight's match will be Welshman Leighton Hodges.
Yeah, I know, I can feel it.
Let's have a look at the teams. Russia, led by the very experienced lock forward Alexander Voitov. He can rely for support from the dependable Kulimin, the gritty hooker Valery Tsomiladze, and the dynamic back rower Viktor Gresev. Behind the scrum, Vasily Artemyev plays in the English Premiership, and Alexei Ostrushko and Denis Simplikovic are proven strike runners. The United States, while an experienced side with many of the summer's starters returning, only 4 players changed from the 30-10 defeat to Italy. Robbie Shaw comes in at scrum half for Mike Petrie. Tony Lestrange gets his opportunity at fly half. Irish-American John Quill replaces the injured Taylor McCarthy, with Cornelius Dirksen taking Zian Nguenia's shirt out on the wing. So the game gets underway. Leighton Hodges, the Welshman from South Wales, is the referee, just his second international match, following that between Romania and Ukraine back in August. The pressure on the United States early on, and the wind has died down somewhat. Chris, you know all about the weather in these parts. When it blows in from the sea, it suddenly blows a gale, as we saw earlier on this afternoon. But at the moment, it doesn't seem to be much wind down there on the field of play.
No, it didn't seem to be a great amount there, but it was obvious to see that the Russians are going to put a lot of pressure on the 10 there. We could see straight from the kickoff they didn't commit heavily into the breakdown, and they're obviously going to look to put pressure on and put pressure on the kick so they can attack from a good place inside the USA's half.
So the first possession then goes to Russia. Alexei Sherban, he's the scrum half. That's Kirill Kulimin, stands at 1.98 m, plays for the London Welsh Club in the English Aviva Premiership. In with a tackle is lock forward Brian Doyle for the Americans. Good quick possession. That's what Kingsley Jones, the Russian coach, will be looking for. The Russians looking to spread it wide.
Yeah, definitely. Already the Russians have used their big forward runners, to punch holes into that American defence. The American defensive line's coming up quick, but as we can see once again, the Russians, those big forwards, are just punching through that gain line and getting that quick ball.
Sherban, now it comes to Vladimir Ostrushko.
Yeah, a penalty there. I think that was for looking at the referee's signal. I think he was looking at a bit of a sort of a tip tackle there going on there, but I don't think there was any malicious intent. It's interesting to see where the Russians are playing. They're playing very much to stereotype those big, heavy forwards punching holes in that defensive line. They made the gain line several times there, so it's going to be interesting to see as the game wears on how that affects the Americans. If you're constantly on the back foot, tackling, it certainly wears you down.
Wayne, Chris, can you hear me clear? Good, thanks.
So chance then for Igor Klyuchnikov. Just after 2 minutes of play, a chance for the Russian fullback with 47 points to his credit in the Russian shirt. It's a good strike, an excellent strike. Splits the uprights. So first blood then to Russia after just 2 minutes of play. They're on the score sheet courtesy of that Klyuchnikov penalty.
Yeah, it was a great kick there. I mean, obviously that's going to serve a warning for the Americans that any penalties they give out, in their half, they could be punished. But once again, that was just a sort of combination of that power game by the Russians. Continually, if stats prove it, if you get over sort of 6 or 7 phases, that's when the penalties come. So they're going to keep looking forward to keep hold of that ball and go through those phases.
We welcome viewers from North America, from New Zealand and from the South Sea Islands who are joining us here this evening at Arias Park in Baikolwin for this first of the double-header to come. It'll be Samoa and Canada.
Yeah, it was interesting there on that kick. The Americans, both their wingers were already back, and the fullback and a back row forward. They've obviously, it looks like something they've worked on the week, that they know the Russians are going to kick from their half, and they're obviously going to look to, get that 2-pass rule in and exploit those wide channels there.
Clean take by the captain, Todd Clever, down the back of the line out there. The charge in midfield comes from Andrew Suniula. He and Paul Emmerich form a formidable partnership in midfield, as they proved at the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand last year. At the base then it's Robbie Shaw taking over from Mike Petrie. Petrie actually is on the bench tonight. He just joined the squad in midweek. Teaching obligations meant that he couldn't join the squad at the beginning of the week.
Yeah, we can see a clear tactic there from the Americans. They're taking that ball right to the far 5-metre line, using the forward to get through the gain line, sucking those defenders, and then unleash that potent back line we saw from that first line out. Here they go.
Shaw having a quick look and took a little too long. Chris Wiles couldn't gather, and the Russians coming through very quickly, snapped up there by Paul Emmerich, a very experienced player. And away he goes, the Wasps representative into the Russian 22. Lovely pass back inside, but unfortunately for him, Luke Hume couldn't quite gather, but that's an opportunity gone begging, Chris.
Yeah, definitely. Those are the opportunities you need to take. But that was very good by the Americans. They didn't panic, and when they picked up the ball, they noticed that there was 2 second rows, and he backed himself to go run through the middle of them. So that was great play. I said that the Americans will look to run that ball back, particularly to target the heavy front 5 of the Russians.
But that certainly is the threat of Paul Emmerich in midfield. Strong runner for the United States, has played for the USA Sevens for many years.
This should be interesting as well. First scrum, obviously, as a prop, I certainly enjoy them, but it'll be interesting, one, to see who can get the early dominance, but two is the refereeing of it. You know, we've talked a lot about it, and there's been the change of the calls and the setup of how the referee manages it. You know, it's something that's been quite contentious in the game, but I think obviously it's a huge part of the game, very important. So I'm interested to see how the ref deals with this today. And an early free kick, as per usual.
The early engagement being penalised. The short arm penalty.
I would have thought American would have gone for a scrum then, you know, because you're tying in 8 defenders already. So maybe that's a sign that they don't fancy the scrum tonight. But it'll be an interesting decision to see if this works.
Taken in there by the captain, the flowing locks of Todd Clever, almost up to the Russian try line. One more effort, one more lung-bursting effort perhaps from the Americans, and it's an almighty struggle there, but the try has been awarded by Leighton Hodges, the referee, and it's good to see a referee having the confidence, Chris, to award the try in those circumstances.
Yeah, very good try, but fantastic play by the American pack there. But if we look at the fringe defenders of the Russians, they're very high there. You know, we can see the player coming in there. He's coming in from high to low. What you need to be getting around there is you need that guard or that bodyguard we talk about, getting in it low and stopping those people at source. But that was some great play by the Americans. The forwards going in it, the 9 not getting involved so he can scan and he can talk. So that was excellent bit of power play by the USA there.
Time for USA, number 3, Eric Fry.
The try scored by tight head prop forward Eric Fry, and Chris, I think you were the first to congratulate him with clapping your hands here. Not often do props get the reward they deserve.
No, and I'm sure by the end of this evening he would have gathered the ball in his own half. He would have rounded the winger, chipped over the fullback, and had to hand off the fly-off as he skidded underneath the sticks. You know, it's always great to see a front row forward get a try, and you know, even if it's from 1 metre, it's still 5 points at the end of the day.
So the Americans claim the lead after 7 minutes. Chris Wiles to add the conversion. The flags are in the air. So good effort from the USA.
Yeah, definitely. You can definitely see a clear pattern of what the Americans are trying to do. You know, in defence, they're getting 4 men back for the return of the kick. But definitely with that pick and go game, the great thing is they're not getting the 9 involved as an extra pair of hands. They're just using the forwards to go at that fringe, always allowing the 9 then to look and scan and to see where the opportunities are for that potent backliner there.
Russia defeated Oxford University over the weekend, 29 points to 15. It was a good win for Russia, but what did concern Kingsley Jones, the Russian coach, was the fact that they gave away 15 points against the students of Oxford University. The defence was a little suspect.
Yeah, I think maybe that's a sort of a systematic, again, of the league system in Russia. You know, these players, they don't play in a highly competitive league. But once again, we saw the pressure from the Russian forwards there onto that kicker. They obviously want to keep them pinned in that half. But once again, we see the USA backs attacking, using that space. And that's a great offload. Oh, unlucky.
Opponent runners, it's Hume again, who represented the USA at the Gold Coast Sevens back in, mid-October.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for an offload there. Just died on him, you know. But nowadays, with defences being so strong, you know, if you can get that offloading game, we've seen with the New Zealanders like Sonny Bill Williams, that offload, how it can just suddenly change the whole picture. You know, it's such an important weapon to use these days.
On this side, it's Evgeny Pronenko, plays for the NSA club in Krasnodar, the stronghold, the capital of Russian rugby. NSA and Krasnodar, the 2 major clubs. Krasnoyarsk.
Yeah, another free kick from the referee there. You know, I'd like to see him allow the teams to scrummage. And I don't think that was not 10 there. But, you know, it'd be good to let the referee, you know, I know he doesn't want a penalty fest, but it would be good to allow the teams to scrummage and, you know, to gain that dominance, because it is a massively important part of the game.
Scrum.
The rain has died off, but the ball naturally is greasy. So handling can be a bit of a lottery.
In the changing rooms, wait for the set. Same this side, wait for the set.
Now the referee's giving the usual talk to the front row. They won't pay a blind bit of notice to what he's saying.
He's a good communicator, is Leighton Hodges.
Yeah, it definitely helps, you know, as a player, or if the referee's communicating to you. You know, it allows you to build that relationship with him, and you can manage the game rather than just blow the game off the park. And as we see, a little bit of chest pumping and one-upmanship there by the front row.
Yeah, Louis Stanfill, the American lock forward, appears to have a fuse which might be shorter than Leighton Hodges would like.
Yeah,
taking exception to something.
Yeah, it's important. Obviously, you know, you want the game to be physical and you want it to be confrontational. But you know, in international rugby, that you know, if you start giving away silly penalties for something like that, particularly in this area, it can change the game very, very quickly.
Touch! Set!
Russia have the advantage of weight in the scrums. Can they make it tell? How you use that weight advantage, that's what does make the difference.
Yeah, definitely a good right shoulder there that allowed the number 8 to get into the 10. But once again, using those big forwards is just battering rams. Coming in, they're going to call him round the corner again.
That's the American 22. The ball falls into the hand of the right winger.
Great break there. Fantastic miss pass and good speed there by the winger there to break that game in.
Vladimir Ostrushko.
Backwards.
So Russia looking to retain possession here. Sherban. Out it goes. It's the short pass bringing the forwards on the charge. That was Evgeny Pronenko once again. The tight head prop forward.
Yeah, once again, just using that power game. I mean, you know, it's working at the moment, but you need a bit of a mix in your game. They're very much playing the Russians at the moment. You know, the forwards are taking on and then the backs are taking on. Perhaps a bit of a mix in that game, you know, playing behind the forwards or bringing the forwards off the backs, because after a while it gets easy to read. As long as America make those tackles, they shouldn't be in any trouble. But if they get over the game like they did there, they're going to get those penalties.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay.
So a chance for Klyuchnikov to add to his early three-pointer. It's a simple effort for an international kicker. So Russia are back within the point. 6-7 after 12 minutes of play.
Yeah, another good kick from there. You know, obviously he's got a trusty boot. Been impressed so far with the Russian forwards, particularly the back 5 of the scrum. They've carried very, very well, particularly the 8 from the first scrum. You know, he made good hard yardage there.
Well taken there by Viktor Gresev. Spent a season or so at the Wasps. Couldn't quite break through to the first team.
Yeah, he's impressed me. He's had another good carry there from the kickoff. You know, he looks like a hard man to get down. He's obviously looks like one of their go-to ball carriers.
Gresev was the player of the year in Russia last year, as he was in 2009. A strong ball carrier, as was evident in the World Cup match against Italy specifically.
Another mistake there by the Americans, but you can see that clear game plan. They're really trying to use the whole width of that field. They're going to attack right into that 5-metre channel, sucking in those Russian backs, and then hopefully, like they did for the try, have that opportunity to get their pacey backs against the forwards.
Not too far, just a little further back, I'd like you.
This series provides an opportunity for the American coach, the new coach of America, Mike Tolkin, to assess the depth in USA Rugby, and he can call upon players who are Europe-based, as so many of these players are these days.
Yeah, I think it's vitally important as a coach. You know, obviously when you first come into a position, you know, obviously you want to win games, but the first thing you need to do is you need to assess the strength of what you've got to work with.
Good solid scrimmaging again from the Bears of Russia. Good cleaning out as well. Ball on the plate for Alexei Sherban. That's Snobiladze from the city of Novokuznetsk.
Yeah, some good tackling there. you know, they chop the big Russian forwards down at source, and that, you know, gives you the opportunity to get that
inside,
that defensive line on the front foot there.
Okay.
Wiles, fullback, left-footed, finds good touch on the Russian 10-metre line.
Yeah, we've only had a couple of line-outs so far, and we haven't. Both of them been won by the team that throw in. It would be interesting to see how that battle progresses during the match. You know, there's certainly some tall timber on both sides there. I think obviously, you know, the scrum and the line-out, they're massive sources of possession these days, and it's vital that we get them.
Russia 19th in the IRB rankings, the USA 15th.
Oh, great steal there by USA though.
Lestrange to the wide open spaces and looking to make the Russians run across field and hopefully tire them out by the last quarter, perhaps. Toby Lestrange, this is his first cap.
That's fantastic there by the Americans there. You know, turnover ball is fantastic, and you know, generally we say, look, let's attack from that. But as a set of forwards, if you turn the ball over and then your 10 puts it right down into the opposition 22, that's absolutely fantastic. And it's heartbreaking for the Russians. You know, they've got to defend again.
Pavel Butenko won that at the back of the line, out 1 meters 92 tall with the blue and red headgear.
Great work there by the Americans, sacking that drive early doors. You know, allows them to get a big chase on the 10 now. All their forwards are on their feet, and quite a few Russians are down.
Sherban did well to get the ball away under pressure, the diminutive scrum half.
Yeah, he did very well to get away from it, but you can see what happens when you can turn over set-piece possession. You know, look where Russian are. They had a line-out pretty much on the halfway. Now that they're stuck in their half, and it's about building on the pressure now for the Americans.
White hold. Stay inside.
Chris Biller is the American hooker. And a couple of short-term contracts with Bath and Northampton.
Hold receiver.
That's a great line out there. Be interesting to see what they do if they use this potent back line wide again. And that's another great pass.
Looking to put the moves together here. Cornelius Dirksen on the left wing for the Americans. His brother Hanno, of course, is an exciting prospect at the Ospreys region in South Wales. The Rabo Direct Pro champions. Good hands from the captain, Todd Clever, to John Quill, the Irish-American, who's represented Munster A and from the Dolphin Club.
Oh, that's another bit of great play by these American forwards. In this pick-and-go game or running off the 9, they're doing it really well. And that's a fantastic offload.
An excellent angle then for the debutant. Toby Lestrange gets his first try in international rugby. He's had to wait a fair while for his first cap. He broke his arm in the Super League earlier on this year, but he's back in harness, and what a well-taken try it was.
Yeah, once again, what the Americans have done, they've gone wide, they've gone into that power pick-and-go game. It's not a slow thing, it's very dynamic, the forwards making the gain line, and then once again, you know, the backs running at the front 5 of the Russians, you know, with big spaces and allowing them to get that offload game in. And that's a fantastic offload. Brilliant, brilliant skill.
We'll get the guys on this side to watch for you, okay? Can I take some out, please?
The second try for the Americans, well taken. 18 minutes of play. The Americans looking good for their 6-point advantage with the conversion to come.
Yeah, great. But for me, that try came from that turnover line-out ball, you know, and then the 10 looking up, seeing the space and putting the Russians. If you keep turning a team, if you keep putting them on the back foot, you know, mistakes are going to come. It's harder to defend than it is attack. So, you know, that was great work on the line-up, but fantastic kick to put them down in the Russian 22.
Chris Wiles, one of a number of players who are playing, as I say, offshore. He plays for the Saracens club in the English Premiership.
Yeah, and a very good player as well. You know, he's someone who's been around for a few years now, and he's an outstanding player.
Chris Wiles, will it turn in? Yeah, it has. It looked to be off course initially. May have been the breeze that carried it between the posts, but lovely offload there from the scrum half, Robbie Shaw.
Yeah, what the 9 did then, he did really well. He noticed once again that there was those two big heavy forwards, you know, and he attacked the line. He put them in, had to make them make a decision, you know, and they're not going to be the fleetest of defenders, and it's about, you know, spotting that opportunity to attack those bigger men.
Use it!
Probably heard the referee shouting, use it. So they've got 5 seconds after the referee calls. That's a new innovation, an amendment to the rules this season to try and speed up play. Tremendous drive coming in from the Russians, but the Americans have held on to possession, or have they? Just about managed to get it to ground, I think, Chris.
Yeah, just about there, but that was great work by the fullback. It wasn't the cleanest of catch, but once again, you know, he did well to get his team on the front foot. But you know, the breakdown area is very, very crucial these days, and the Americans did excellent there to get that ball back. But for me, I was thinking if that was taken from a kick, I thought it was the team who took it in from a kick that gets the decision. So maybe the referee got that one wrong, but what would I know? I'm just a prop.
Yeah, fair comment. Good point. It's all so important, getting the feet right, getting placement of the feet right in the front row.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these days, you know, the scrum with the engagement is such a huge amount of force you can see there. And that's another good scrum by America there. They get the ball away.
They're technically sound in the scrums, aren't they? More so than the Russians. They're all big men, the Russians, but technically not so astute perhaps as the Americans.
No, I think you just look at the development of American rugby. It's a few years ahead of the Russians, but if you look at the raw material that the Russians are working with, there's some big units there. Oh, and that's a great...
Here's another big unit. Away he goes. That's the hooker, Valery Tsnobiladze.
As a coach, that's going to absolutely kill you, because you get behind the gain line, a great, you know, spot there by the 2, and the next player comes off his feet. There's no reason to do this at all. You know, Kingsley will be absolutely pulling his hair out. There was no need for them to go off their feet there at all. Good
work there by the man from Kuzbas, the coal mining centre in Russia. It's good to see a miner right in the thick of that front row there, in the middle of the front row, and is reminded, of course, of the likes of Bobby Windsor here in Wales and Garen Jenkins, who you would know well, Chris.
Yeah, definitely. But I can't remember as a front row player finding myself in that much space on a field. I would have got slightly nervous.
So 14 points to 6, and that's the Americans' advantage. It could be another score coming here. Dirksen.
That's a great break again. Once again, this American backline looks very potent.
Yeah, another debutant in the American shirt, Cornelius Dirksen.
Wait. You know, if we look at the Americans... Sorry about that, yeah, but if we look how the Americans attacking, they're running 3 players into the 10s channel. They've got the blindside winger, the 12 and the 13, all in close proximity to each other. So which that does, it holds the slide. You know, if you just play wide and deep, it allows the team to push up and it allows you to use the touchline. But they're running 3 players into a smaller channel. It's really asking questions of these Russians, and, you know, that's asking a lot of these players in terms of their defensive abilities.
There was 1 and 2 there in the Russian scrum. Brothers, Grigory, the younger of the 2 brothers, Valery, we saw him stride downfield a few moments ago.
Yeah, I bet their Sunday dinners are quite big. I bet they go through quite a few chickens.
Again, the Russian scrum under pressure. Viktor Greshev picks up from the base, making good ground up to the 10-metre line.
Yeah, number 8 again. He's a bit of a go-to man for them. He's getting over the gain line again and again and again.
Belated call for the mark, perhaps. Well, the second time to make sure that the referee did hear him. Chris Wiles.
A bit of a nothing kick there, you know. They had over the gain line. Perhaps they could have gone through another phase again. Or if you're going to do a box kick or an up and under, whatever you call it, you want to give your wingers something to chase there. You know, pretty much they've just turned over possession and they're being kicked back again. You've got to give your kickers, your chasers, something to chase in terms of your kicking.
Kingsley Jones, the Russian coach, has been experimenting over the 12 months since the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand. And he says he's brought his what he considers to be his strongest squad to Wales. Butenko wins at the back. The man with the red helmet, he's the captain, Alexander Voitov.
Once again, the Americans did really well. They're getting that drive down very early. But, they're given a penalty. I can't see what that's for. But they did very well initially, stopping that drive.
2 on his hands and knees, taking the space.
Taking the space. I think I heard Leighton Hodges say.
You've got to do with height and positivity, not on the ground or on the floor. Back 10, please.
Yeah, we hear a lot about that, the referees these days. You know, a lot of players are coached, rather than going for the ball, they talk about winning the space, but you've got to do it in a positive manner. If you know, if your head's down, if your heads are lower than your hips, the referees are going to be liable to penalise you. It's all about being positive, and I think that's what a lot of referees want to see. Yes, you can compete for the ball, yes, you compete for the space, but you've got to be doing it in a positive manner.
So Kliuchnikov succeeded with both attempts so far. 6 feet 2 inches tall.
Hi.
The last line of defense, but proving himself as a proficient kicker. This the most difficult kick so far. It's midway between the 10-meter line and the halfway. With the angle must be some 45 meters. Good strike. Excellent strike. 3 successful penalty goal attempts and for Igor Kliuchnikov, and he's keeping the Russians in the game at the moment. They still trail though by 5 points and by 14-9 with 26 minutes or so on the clock.
Yeah, I think America have played the majority of the rugby, as we've seen, you know, but it's just those silly penalties that America are giving away that keeping Russia in the game. That's why it's so important to keep your discipline. You know, it's massively important, particularly in international level.
Lestrange kicks long from the restart.
White, stand! Stand, White! Back!
Ball drops infield. Half chance for Chris Wiles up from fullback. The Russians are there in numbers.
Use it!
Options left and right here. On the narrow side, again over halfway. Quick ball this time then.
Yeah, once again using these forwards, but they've got to be careful that they don't get isolated, just like there.
Advantage White.
Yeah, Todd Clever, the captain, injured in that play.
Forward off blue.
Will need some attention probably. And that's Todd Clever.
Yeah, it looks like a definite sort of strategy from the kickoff there with America. They're putting it long because what they want the Russians to do is to kick it back to them, because they've shown if they get space, that back line is very, very potent. Their forward game has been very good, the Americans, but what they've got to be careful about, oh, that was a nasty challenge, that they don't get isolated there.
Yeah, Butenko, I think it was, his head collided with Todd Clever, banged him on the cheek.
Yeah, I'm sure America will not want to see him go off. You know, even in the early stages of the game, we've seen him around those pick and goes, taking that ball up. You know, he's been very sort of prominent in terms of their game, and no one ever wants to lose their captain so early on in the game. But hopefully he's all right. He seems to be moving a little bit.
Yeah, this is how the injury came about. Nothing intentional, nothing malicious about it. Just an awkward challenge.
Yeah, nothing malicious in that, but it just shows how the game's changed so much. I mean, I remember when I first started playing, you know, we used to talk about the tackle area. Now we talk about the collision. You know, that you look at these guys out there, you know, they're not rugby players, they're athletes. You know, they're all in the prime physical condition. And the tackle now is, like I say, it's becoming a collision, it is becoming a contact, a smash. You hear these type of words to describe it, and, you know, I think injuries like that are inevitable, unfortunately. But it's great to see he's sitting up now.
Yeah, and the strict rules over concussion as well now, so these are worrying times for the American coach and, of course, for Todd Clever, the American captain, who's played in the ITM competition in New Zealand, played Super Rugby as well, and in Japan. And he's still young enough to have a crack at the Heineken European Cup at 29 years of age. Good to see him back on his feet.
Yeah, he looks okay. I think this concussion bin is a fantastic, because, you know, I know what players are like. They'll say, yeah, I'm fine. They'll just want to get them back playing. But, you know, get them off the field, give it 5 minutes, let's have a look at them, because, you know, at the end of the day, we want to see the game, but, you know, players' health is paramount. Good
crowd here at Arias Park, Colwyn Bay, for this, the first of the double header this evening. Todd Clever, thankfully, back on his feet, and shortly back in the thick of it, no doubt.
Yeah, like any good captain there, as soon as he's off the floor, yeah, telling his team what he wants, giving them orders, but it was great to see him back on his feet as well.
Crouch! Yeah, we're too far away, lads. Let's just get a little... Either side, we're too far away.
Yeah, referee making sure that the players are within touching distance because of the force these guys are coming in. You know, if you're just that bit too far ahead, away from each other, that's when the scrum collapses. But America, particularly in the early scrums, have been going for this really fast hit.
Touch! Set!
Yeah, the hit, that's the crucial issue, isn't it? And that's what we're trying to avoid, really. We've done away with one element of the four-part engagement, if you like. Yeah, that's had an influence, that's had an impact, but not to the impact perhaps that the IRB would have wished for.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of studies and a lot of think tanks about the scrummaging. You know, the hit never used to be part of it when I started playing, but it's come more and more into it. And you've just got to look at the way the players have changed. You know, the fact that these guys are full-time athletes, the amount they're lifting in the gym. You know, the hit has come into it, and it's become more and more of a problem, really, to the scrummaging.
Taken down the front by Brian Doyle from the New York Athletic Club. Where's that going? Into midfield, taken by the fullback, Igor Kliuchnikov. 3 penalty goals to his name in the first half, which has brought Russia back within 1 score. Touched in flight, taken by Dirksen.
Yeah, it just showed the difference with the kick there, you know, compared to that early Russian box kick. You know, the Americans had something to chase there. Their defensive organisation, their defensive systems seem a lot clearer in terms of who goes where they go, recruiting numbers and things like that. But it just makes so important for it with the kick chase that you get something to chase, and that was a really good chase by the Americans there.
It's going to be a blue scrum, lads, who's unplayable.
That's Brian Doyle, the lock forward. Played for the northern suburbs in Sydney. Any number of these Americans have played abroad.
I think it's important for these developing nations that these players go and experience other rugby cultures and experience playing in different leagues, because it's only going to broaden their player base. But also these players are going to go and learn new things. They can take it back when they come to the national side. You know, they say about players playing all around the world, sometimes it's not good for the national side. But you know, you've got to look at it another way. You know, these guys are bringing other ideas, other cultures, other rugby ideas.
Well, that's a sign of the times as well, isn't it? Making sure the contact lens is in place. But interestingly, talking about broadening the player base, Brian Doyle is a former basketball player, and we know now that with an Olympic gold in prospect, with the sevens code being included in the Olympic program, then there are opportunities for perhaps players, basketball, American football, who might not make the grade to move into rugby, as a number of players have done successfully.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's massively important. If you look at these two countries with their population base, oh, that's a great break again.
Lovely play again from Toby Lestrange. But unfortunately for him, Americans have coughed up possession. But what a clean break that was from the debutant, Toby Lestrange.
Yeah, they're making a lot of yardage at the moment, America, around that 10-12 channel. You know, they're attacking narrow, and they're asking questions of that 10-12 partnership, and they're struggling with it. As you can see, there's 3 players flooding into view, and it's very, very difficult then for the Russian defenders to identify which player they're going for.
Step up a little bit. Good. Lads, no head-to-head. Crouch!
So Alexei Sherban.
Touch! Set!
Scrum half looking towards his fullback, I think, Kliuchnikov. Who takes the responsibility himself to get that ball away. Wiles really run it back, hoist the high one, which will drop just outside the Russian 22, taken by Sergei Sugrabov.
Another good charge there, but once again that American kick chase is excellent.
It's an awkward one for Robbie Shaw to take. Lestrange gets it away this time. Secure into the hands of Luke Hume. Ball didn't go forward. At least not initially, it didn't.
Wrong side.
No, the Americans, there's definitely a ploy to run that ball back and to expose those bigger forwards in those open channels. A couple of times this has happened now to the Americans, but we know we're looking for that offload, but you've got to be so certain of it. You know, there's 3 or 4 times now that they've been in opportunities, 2 to score tries, and just in those wider channels where they go in for the offload. But you know, you said with the conditions, you've got to make sure you have the ability to, yes, 1, offer it, but 2 to bring it back in. You know, that grip on that ball is massively important.
Go to the back.
USA will also face Romania and Tonga before returning home on the 25th of this month, but looking to get their series underway with a victory against Russia. Clean take by Brian Doyle, but the referee's assistant wants to have a word here.
Yeah, quite nasty there. The Russians went in and took that drive well before the man was on the floor. You know, you've got to be so careful with that. Yes, you want to stop the drive, but you know, when a player is up in the air at that height, you know, we can cause some nasty injuries. I'll be interested to see what the referee does with this situation.
Players back, and I will deal with it. That's the message to you, okay?
Yeah, having a word there with both captains.
Yeah, I think he just wants to manage the fact that the Americans don't take the law into their own hands. But, you know, you can't afford, as we watch here, the number 6 and 7, before the man hits the ground, taking him out in the air. You know, it'd be interesting to see if he does go in his pocket there, because you can really injure a player there.
Okay, both myself and the touch judge have seen the offence, okay? The man's in the air, he's come right underneath. That's dangerous.
Victor Gresev is the
yellow card.
Man penalised and seeing the yellow card.
Some empty for them, okay? What you've done is dangerous.
I think potentially what the offence could cause, you know, it wasn't like he just hit the floor. He was still very high in the air, and I think he's sort of sending out a statement there that, you know, if he doesn't stamp on that early, you know, that could come into the game. But also he's saying to the Americans, yes, I've seen it, I'll deal with it, and let me get on with that and you get on with your game, rather than taking the law into their own hands.
So Russia down to 14 men for the remainder of this first half. Victor Gresev, the aggressive Russian number 8, is in the sin bin for the remainder of this first half, and that could well have an influence on the final outcome of this match. 2 Russian players went in. I must admit I hadn't spotted Victor Gresev. He wasn't as prominent as Pavel Butenko, perhaps the wing forward, but that's how the referee's assistant saw it.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, obviously you don't want to lose a player to the sin bin, but he has been at the moment the Russian standout player. You know, their scrum has been a little bit under a little bit of pressure, but he's picked up, he's got the ball away from the base, he's done well from the kickoff, he's given them a lot of their go forward ball. So not only are they going to be down a man, they're also going to be down one of their better players.
Gresev not getting his timing right, neither did Chris Wiles on that occasion, so the score remains at 14 points to 9 with some 7 minutes remaining of this first half.
Yeah, a strange decision in a way to go for the kick. I mean, I would have personally gone to the corner. They're down a man. In the referee's mind already, he's thinking, hey, you know, the Russians are going to, they're infringing on this line-out drive. They wouldn't have been allowed to go in as hard. Perhaps potentially they could have, you know, got a try from the drive.
Good kick again. Good chasing by the Americans. 3 and 4 blue shirts there, preventing anything from developing. Kliuchnikov up from fullback, back to Sugrabov. Gets it away only as far as Luke Hume, though, the man from the old Blues.
Yeah, once again running that ball. They, you know, they want the Russians to kick back to them because that's where their strength. And if the Americans go here, they've got an opportunity. There's a prop and a second row out on that wing.
Driving forward is Sean Pittman. 20 tests to his name. So here they come on the narrow side. Emmerich and Dirksen. Gets under the tackle of Vasily Artemyev. At centre tonight, usually a wing, 3/4, certainly for Northampton. The Russians have stolen it now then. Can they move it out quickly? Sherban keeps it low, driving it hard into American territory. It's all a bit untidy, a bit scrappy at the moment.
Yeah, very, very scrappy. The Russian kicking game has not been great this evening. I think they're not able to alleviate any possession there. The 9 just picked that ball up and just putting it, well, not a great kick through, you know, but there was a difference in that contact area. We heard the referee earlier saying about going through and winning the space and being positive. We saw the Russian player, the flanker, he went through, but he was up on his feet and he was being positive, and the referee allowed him to go through and win that ball. But you've got to do more with turnover ball there. That was was an interesting lineup.
Well, it was, wasn't it? I mean, half of the Russians were just standing looking at one another.
Use it!
So there's the call to use it. Picked up by Louis Stanfill, number 5 for the United States. That's Todd Clever. Knocked back in the tackle, but the US of A have it through Lestrange into midfield. Sunula. One of 3 Sunula brothers who've represented America at 7s and 15s.
Robbie Shaw's really impressed me at 9 this evening. He's certainly got his forwards playing the right game. He's got them going forward. He's got that power game. He's full of talk. He's full of, you know, as any good 9 should be. He should be the heartbeat of the team, but you can see him organising on the go. He's not arriving at the ruck and reacting to the situation. He's being very proactive. He's getting the players where they need to be before the Russian defence can fold round.
Yeah, Robbie Shaw, the scrum half, an ex-Leeds and Bristol player, and opportunities have been few and far between since his 2 tests in 2008, I think it was. Mike Petrie has been the incumbent since then, but he's certainly shown up well for the Americans this evening.
Yeah, he's done very well. I think, you know, any pack of forwards, your 9 has to be your eyes. You know, you need him to be directing you, but, you know, we showed some great touches as well. That offload for the try was absolutely fantastic.
Good take by Clever at the back, not challenged by Russia. Americans looking to get the drive on here. Russia down to 7 men, of course, in the forward effort. Leighton Hodges, the referee, on the spot as the rolling maul, the American rolling maul, gets going towards the Russian try line.
Ball's on the floor, stay up, blue!
Ball's on the floor, says the referee, and here they go for the 3rd try, over the try line, and the referee's on the spot to award another 5-pointer to the Americans.
Another fantastic try. That offload once again, but to me, what's been the difference is the dynamism, easy for you to say, of the American forwards, where the Russians have been very much, you know, here I am, I'm taking the ball up, but you can see me coming. The Americans, it's all been very dynamic, very quick, very fast, you know, and they've certainly done well in the forward exchanges. And another great offload there.
So the Americans taking advantage of the extra man. Good work, though, by the number 7, John Quill.
Everything the Americans have done, they've done it with a lot more pace and a lot more accuracy. You know, their pick-and-go game's quicker, their line-out's quicker, where the Russians are getting a lot of ball at the front, the Americans, they're winning their ball at the back. You know, everything they're doing, their ruck ball's quicker, they're up in defence quicker. You know, they just seem like they've got that bit of extra pace in their game compared to the Russians.
So Wiles, some 8 metres in from the far touchline, adds another 2 points, which takes the US of A out over the 20-point mark, 21-9, with just over a minute remaining of the first half.
Yeah, a very good half from the Americans. They've certainly, you know, been the dominant team in this game so far. It'll be interesting to see what the coaches do at half-time. You know, Kingsley's definitely going to have to speak to his team and sort out the kicking game, but I think the biggest problem for them is that defence and that 10-12 channel. They're certainly going to have a look at that and decide how they plug that gap.
So Doyle, the try scorer, holds it up. There also was Eric Fry, the blonde tight head prop forward, got America onto the score sheet early on.
Taken in.
Oh, big mistake.
A rare mistake there from Chris Wiles, the American fullback.
Yeah, I didn't see what really happened there. If he took his eye off the ball, or if the man was up, but yeah, just took his eye off the ball a little bit there.
Scrum. White ball.
Now, this is an opportunity for the Russians. You know, you've got minute till half time. If they can get something now, even 3 points, it suddenly makes the mood within the dressing room that little bit different. You know, it allows you to go in saying, hey, actually, you know, we've got a score, we've got something on the board. They need to take something from this attack.
So 7 men in that Russian scrum.
Crouch!
They'll be looking to put a lot of pressure through the Russian tight head, because he hasn't got a flanker, and you can see there already he's under a bit of pressure. You know, the loose head of the USA team will work closely with his hooker to put the pressure through, so see if they can turn that ball over.
We're too far apart. We just need to come in a little closer.
I mean, a lot of teams in this situation would probably put a flanker on onto the side of the scrum just to make sure that you win that ball.
Okay, thank you. No, don't step back.
But he certainly is a tight head, going to be under a lot of pressure here.
Pronenko against Sean Pittman.
Touch. Set.
Oh, he's done very well. Excellent scrum by Russia.
So here they come then. Can they get a score before the break? Looking to release Vasily Artemyev in midfield. Sherban to Butenko. Doyle in with the tackle. That's Snobiladze, the hooker, the captain, Voitov.
Americans are doing very well. They're stopping those big Russians right on the game line. They're going low and they're chopping them down, slowing the ball down here. You can see the difference with the American pick-and-go game with the Russian pick-and-go. It's a lot slower when the Russians do it, but they're holding on to the ball. That's the most important thing here at the moment.
Use it!
Great low tackle again by the Americans. The difference around those fringes, they're lower, and they're probably, I don't know if they've got the turnover ball, but...
And that is the last piece of action all the first half. The Russians not succeeding to get another score before the break, and they've yielded 3 tries in that first half. The prop forward, Eric Fry, Toby Lestrange, the outside half, and lock forward Brian Doyle. 3 penalty goals from Igor Kliuchnikov at the break here at Arias Park in Baikolwin. It's Russia 9, the United States 21. Welcome back to Colwyn Bay, where it's Russia 9, the United States of America 21 at half-time. And Chris Horseman, the USA, looking good for their advantage, the 3-try advantage.
Yeah, definitely. I think the USA are going to come out of the blocks firing. You know, they don't really need to change anything, the USA. Everything, obviously, they've worked on in the week. You can see they play into a particular plan. They've obviously done their homework very well on the Russians. You know, they know if they go through the phases, if they use the whole width of the pitch, their backs will have the opportunity to run at their front 5. But I think the big thing for the Russians is that fringe defence. The American forwards are picking and going around the fringes, and they're sucking in those Russian defenders. But they're not breaking massively, but they're just getting over the game line again and again, and they're just forcing the Russians on the back foot time and time again.
Just to remind ourselves, this is the first match in the inaugural IRB International Series played here in North Wales, and holding these matches in Wales has enabled the national coaches to bring in their players based on European clubs without too much trouble. Russia, for example, while they've called on Vasily Artemyev, the Northampton wing, and Kirill Kulimin, the London Welsh lock, while the Eagles squad include Scott Labala, the Stade Francais lock, and Paul Emmerich, the London Wasps utility back. And in the second half, Russia have it all to do. I wonder what the Russian coach Kingsley Jones will have told his squad at half-time.
Well, I think definitely that 10-12 channel, they're definitely going to have to organise that defence. They've got to come up early. They've got to nominate. What they're doing is they're being caught flat-footed. You know, we talk about in defence, if you come up, you can stop, but you've got to keep on your toes. Some people call it paddling or, check-in time. But what they're doing, they're coming up, they're being caught flat-footed, and those 3 American backs are flooding that channel, and they're asking questions there. They really need to make sure that the nomination is early and they're picking up their men. I think that's the big thing for them. But once again, it's that fringe defence from the Russia. At the moment, the American attack is very much quicker. They're on their feet more. Too many Russians are being into the tackle area and off their feet.
Okay, I'm not going to stop.
So here we go then. Getting the second half underway is Chris Wiles, the American fullback.
I understand that, mate, but it's not my issue.
Been in the thick of it in the first half, but Russia, I have to remind you, are down to 14 men. Victor Gresev, their number 8, was dispatched to the sin bin some 8 minutes before the end of the first half, so a chance for the Americans perhaps to take advantage of the extra man in the opening minutes of the second half.
Yeah, I think the vital thing here for the Russians is they don't give away another score early on. You know, they must make sure that they keep hold of the ball, just run that clock down, get their number 8 on. Because we saw in the first half, he's a big player for them. You know, he's got the pedigree, he's got the ability, and he certainly gives them that go-forward ball.
Well, Chris Wiles certainly
not 10, option taken.
Didn't strike that one well, but he was looking to put it on the 10-metre line, I think.
Come on.
Just miscued it.
Yeah, perfect, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. The Americans want the ball as much as possible. They obviously feel that they can challenge there. The first half, they definitely had that tactic of kicking it long so the Russians to kick back, but obviously they thought the Russians were down or forward. Let's put it in there, let's get the ball back early, let's put the pressure on them, because they certainly ended the first half very much in the ascendancy.
Early.
So it's the Americans with the early engagement and the Russians looking to get back into this match through their fullback Klyuchnikov. They have to retain possession. They're without a fullback at the moment. That's Kirill Kulimin, the London Welsh lock forward. Sherban certainly busy early on for Russia.
Yeah, but once again, it's all behind the gain line at the moment, and then, you know, another bit of an aimless kick, really. They played too far behind the gain line there. The American defence, if you looked at that passage of play, there was only one American forward off his feet. The rest of the American team were up in the defensive line. They were coming up quick, and they were making sure that they nominated, but they weren't planting their feet. They were being dominant in the tackle and forcing the Russians to basically kick good ball away.
So Chris Wiles, the Saracens fullback, one of the first names on the team sheet for the USA. He won't be happy with the referee assistant's decision there. He had good distance on it, but I think it sort of flew into touch early on, and perhaps the breeze does favour the Russians in the second half.
Yeah, it's not a massive breeze, but it certainly seems to favour them. I think the big thing for the Russians this half, they've got to have a bit more patience. They're going through 2 or 3 phases, and if they're not busting over the gain line, they're just kicking the ball away. You know, keep hold of the ball. It showed with that first attack when they went to sort of 7, 8 phases, they got that early penalty.
Come backwards off White.
But this does reflect their league rugby in Russia. A kick and chase from their own 22 very often does bring with it a try. This is what I've been told by Kingsley Jones at some stage, that he's tearing his hair out because that is that they're impatient, as you say. They know at home in club rugby they can score even from their own try line. They won't do that at international level, that's for sure.
No, you've got to be patient with the ball. You know, the first thing is if you've got hold of the ball, the opposition can't score. And we've seen how potent the American backline is. The last thing what you want to be doing is just kicking aimless kicks back to the American back three. You know, they're very good at the opportunity of counter-attacking. They need to keep hold of the ball, go through the phases. You know, at the moment, if they go through the phases and get penalty, we know that they can kick their goals. They just need to have that little bit more patience and say, hey, it's okay, we're not going to score from first phase like we do in club rugby. We need to go 6, 7, 8 phases.
But they've got players, they've got potent attackers behind the scrum in Ostrushko and Simplikovic out on the wings, and Artemiev and Makovetsky. We've hardly mentioned them in the first half.
No, not at all. They, you know, like I say, they're using those big forwards as battering rams, and they're thinking, well, we'll just go through them 3 or 4 times and we'll be over the gain line. But like I say, the Americans are coming off their line, they're chopping them down. You know, we hear a lot about that chop tackle at the moment, and they're bringing them to the floor. Long
distance effort from Igor Klyuchnikov. The flags stay down.
Yeah, they needed that kick there. It certainly would have given them that little bit of a boost,
22.
You know, on the scoreboard.
Yep, coughed up 1 try whilst Viktor Gresev was in the sin bin. So it's still 21 points to 9.
Blue drop.
It's not great when you're sat in the sin bin. You know, you sit there as a player with your fingers crossed thinking, I hope they don't score, I hope they don't score. And when you're sat in the sin bin, you feel bad enough because you've let your team down. And then you see them cross for a try. You just want the earth to swallow you up.
So back to Sherban. Up it goes. The chase is good. The catch was even better from Robbie Shaw, one of the star players in the opening 40 minutes, that's for sure. Eric Fry, the prop, offloads to outside half Lestrange. This is Paul Emmerich. He'll have a go.
Yeah, really good take by the 9 there, and a fantastic offload by the prop there, you know, keeping that ball alive. But once again, we just see the Americans just getting over the gain line again with that power game with the forwards. Here they go again, attacking the fringes. The Russians are too high. They need to get lower. They need to stop at its source.
Shaw, out it comes then. Into midfield where John Quill, the open side wing forward, joined the line. They will have a coughed up possession here. Sherban.
Yeah, he just tried for that offload there. He probably would have been better on it. It was quite a tight space, just holding on to it. But once again, another aimless kick. You know, if you look, if they play 2 passes here, the Americans.
Leave him go!
No, he's kicked wide because the winger's out of position.
He's found good space as Luke Hume. Simplikovic inside his own 22. Oh, that's a shocker. So net gain, United States of America.
Yeah, it wasn't a great kick there. I think he had his boots on his wrong feet there. It wasn't, mind you, I was never the best kicker, but once again, the Russian kicking game is not great. You know, they're just kicking it aimlessly downfield. There's no chase into it. They're not given any opportunity to make advantage of those kicks. And once again, the American kicking game much sharper. It's just everything the Americans are doing. They're just that little bit sharper and a little bit quicker.
Back, drop.
It's just been the one score in it between these two teams the last two times they met at the World Cup, and in the Churchill Cup, the USA won 13-6 in the World Cup and 32-25 in the Churchill Cup. And here comes Chris Wiles. He's found the gap. Oh, that's far too easy.
Yeah, that was what we call a 11 play, a one hit up in the middle and running back, because generally what you'll find from a line out is your tight forwards will be on that blind side. So all they do is they run one of those block lines, they play behind that block runner, and the winger holds the depth. Here we go, play behind the block runner, and you're running at 7 and 4 and 5 there. Fantastic try.
Yeah, Butenko stepped out of the defensive line. Thanks very much, says Chris Wiles, a 7th try in his career.
The good thing there, the 9, once again, I've been really impressed with him. What he did there is he took that ball a couple of steps, but he interested that fringe defence so they couldn't push out. You know, he made the guard, the bodyguard, he just took it up to the line a little bit, made them step in, which then made the outside defenders just step in a little bit. You know, you couldn't drift on that situation. He did very well. Very impressed with him. He's had an outstanding game so far.
11 points, and that's Chris Wiles' tally. Can he make it 13 with this conversion of his own try?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting next sort of 5 or 6 minutes. You know, it looks like the Americans now, they could really run away with this. I think Russia, like I say, they need to just get hold of this ball, stop making the mistakes. But the big thing for me is their defence. They're not stopping anything at source, and they're not reading and reacting.
Solid strike again from Chris Wiles.
Yeah, we just saw in that replay just how the 9, when he just took those couple of steps, just interested that fringe defence. But once again, running back here, we can see 4 and 5 and 1. Very much a planned move. Excellent bit of play there by America.
28 points to 9. That's the Americans' lead, and they could run away with this one. Looking at the body language of the Russians. A mistake. No play on, says referee Hodges.
Yeah, it went back, and obviously they're back to their full complement now, the Russians. And let's see what they can do. Just have that little bit of patience with the ball. Go through the phases, see what they can achieve. Sending those forward runners. But once again, the Americans, one person in, going through and winning the space, and that full defensive line in front of the Russians.
Hooker, snobby lads, putting them on the front foot again. Again, it's the kick, the aimless kick.
Yeah, just kicking away possession, and this is what the Americans want. They'll see the spaces and they'll run back. Their tails are certainly up. Russia need to keep hold of the ball. Every time they're kicking it, they're giving it back to the Americans, and they're on the front foot.
Unfortunate for Russia, Temnov just managed to grab the ankle of Chris Wiles, but giving away another penalty here.
Yeah, you can see the frustration starting to get into the Russians' game now. They're getting, giving these silly penalties away. But once again, it comes to that sort of aimless kicking, and I suppose, we can't be too hard on these sides, because this is what it's about. It's about exposing these players to this level of competition. It's about them getting an understanding of what makes the better teams function. So the Russian players, they want to win this game. Don't get me wrong, they'll want to get the W, but it's about the long-term development. It's about making sure that when these players leave from these 2 games, they're better players for it. And I know the coaching staff of the Russians, they'll be disappointed because they're winners, but what they'll say is to the guys, okay, these are the mistakes we've made, but let's learn from them. Let's look at our kicking game. Let's look at our fringe defence.
Come through the gate, it's fine. Once you be on the ball, you come back around.
Getting good distance. Finds touch just outside the Russian 22. The breeze has suddenly died down from the first half. The Russians have it all to do as they trail by 19 points. It's 3 scores.
Yeah, and once again, overthrow there, but the tail of that line-out is open for the Americans either time. The Russians are working what we call a 2-pod system, taking away the front and the middle of the line-out. And that's a great carry by the American forwards over the gain line.
Sure, he's having an armchair ride, isn't he, at scrum half for the US of A. Almost up to the 22, and that's Chris Biller, the hooker.
Yeah, the American forwards are doing fantastically well. They're sucking in those defenders. When they're tackled, they're using that leg drive just to work themselves that extra yard. It just makes defending line. Just saw there, look, the Russians, they're just moving back, and the Americans are always on the front foot here.
Russians on the defensive, yet again driving forward. Ball made available for Robbie Shaw. Lestrange looks for the run on the inside, creates space and outside, and some uncertainty again in the Russian defensive ranks. They've held the initial storm.
That's good work there by the outside backs, you know, making sure that they secure that ball. Now what the Americans will do, they'll play this forward pod again, but Nine picks up, he spots the gap. Oh, great try again.
No problem. That's Scott Lavala, I think it was, the wing forward. It may have been Robbie Shaw.
Yeah, Robbie Shaw, try well deserved by him. He's been the man of the match so far for me. He's been absolutely fantastic. But once again, you know, the Russian defence is on the back foot. But you know, look, the forwards there. Look at the gap there. They're up, and they spot the gap, and in he goes.
Yeah, fooled me as well. I thought he'd passed to Scott Lavala, but a well-taken try from the scrum half, and rich reward for his efforts this evening. If anyone deserved a try, it was that young man, Robbie Shaw.
Yeah, and what he's done, he's spotted the gap. You know, the American forwards have been setting them up with that pick-and-go game, or hitting those three forwards off the breakdown, and they overread it then. And any good halfback will notice that, any good scrum half, you know, he'll be always keeping an eye on what that fringe defence is doing. He looked, he saw that the guard and the bodyguard, those two guys around the fringe, there was a big space between them, and they were focused out. You know, we call it windscreen wiper eyes. You know, you're looking in at the ruck, you're looking up at the defence, constantly looking and scanning. But the Russian forwards, they were just fixed, looking at that pod of three, and any good Nine to spot that gap.
That's an interesting description, windscreen wiper eyes.
Oh, you know, when you're coaching players, you want to give them something, you know, to say to some, you know, as a way of describing it, you know, because we've got to be nice to these props and hookers and stuff like that. Make sure we give them something they can understand.
Sure. Here's another angle at that try, head or from behind. Shaw. And the interesting thing about Robbie Shaw is that he's never played domestic rugby in the US of A. He's played all his rugby in the UK. Yeah. And that experience certainly proved its worth there. 33 points to 9, and that's the Americans' lead. 10-11 minutes into the second half.
Yeah, I think you know, barring a miracle, I think this game is definitely going to go towards USA now. I think what the Russians have got to do is that, you know, they can't just let their heads drop, and I know they won't, but they've got to get something from this. You know, they've got to look at how they can fix the problems during the game. You know, they definitely need to look at this fringe defence at the moment and how they're getting the players down. Here
comes the cavalry, and if Leighton Hodges looks a little bemused, well, I can tell him I'm trying to catch up with all the replacements here. Wholesale replacements from Russia. We'll catch up with the numbers as the game progresses. So it's Sergei Sugrabov who restarts, and a rare mistake from Paul Emmerich.
Yeah, that was a rare mistake there from the Americans. They've normally been pretty good on that. You know, I think sometimes what can happen when you get into such a lead, you know, maybe subconsciously you take your eye off the ball, so to speak. But once again, let's see what the Russians can do. You know, there's still good sort of 25 minutes left of the game. Have a bit of patience. Don't just think, well, we've gone through two phases, we can't score. Have some patience. Build the pressure up. Let's see what the backs can do. They've very much gone into the forwards, but it's been very much in isolation and only for a short period of time.
Vladislav Korshunov in the middle of that revamped front row wins his 60th cap.
He'll certainly bring a lot of experience to that front row.
Well, he's certainly a star of YouTube these days. When he's standing up to a referee in a particular game, the eyes have it, and if you see Vladislav Korshunov, you wouldn't want to face him, that's for sure. And immediately having made those substitutions, Russia have claimed a try for Vladimir Ostroushko.
Yeah, that was a great try there. You know, good solid scrum there, and they got the ball out to the backs, and they actually ran something there. You know, they asked some questions of the American defence. You know, what I would be saying now if I was in the middle of the American team is, right, look, we're in the lead now, but look, if we give away another score, we can make it quite interesting. But, you know, like I say, subconsciously, sometimes when you get sort of, you know, a 20-point lead, the mind can wander and you can think the job's been done.
Yeah, good work by Sergei Sugrabov, the outside half. There he goes, spots the gap in behind Andrew Sunula. Brushes aside the tackle of Chris Wiles, and Ostroushko over in the corner.
Yeah, once again, we see how such a dangerous weapon that offload is. You know, if you can get your head through that gain line, push yourself through it and get that offload, you know, you're turning that defensive line. And there was great work by the winger there. Great ball transference, got the ball into the outside hand and had a good fend. That's a difficult skill, that. So that was a well-taken try.
It was a lovely strike from Kluchnikov. Just missed its mark, though. But Russia, they'll gain some confidence from that score by the left winger Vladimir Ostroushko.
Yeah, definitely, and you know, perhaps the game isn't dead. You know, with sort of
plenty of time to go to
25 minutes. Yeah, perhaps you know the Americans maybe subconsciously taking their foot off the gas. You know what the Americans need to do is to win this ball back from the kickoff. Just go through the phases. You know, pick up a 3-point here. Just keep the pressure on the Russians because it's all their game to play.
Gresev can play across the back row. Can Viktor Gresev take it in?
Oh, great take there by the second row. Fantastic hands there under pressure.
Louis Stanfield. Use it! Wearing 20 for the Americans is Peter Dahl.
7, stand! Okay.
Oh, that's a great kick. Absolutely fantastic kick.
Suglobov just about keeps the ball in play, carries it over the try line.
It's a knock forward white.
Oh, that's
thank you.
Yes, Balzik. That's one heck of a mistake.
Yeah, and once again, a fantastic kick there by the Americans. Noticing where the space was, and I mean, that was a vicious bounce there. He did well to keep it in, but perhaps maybe just discretion was a better part of valor there. Just let it go into touch. At least you've got the line out, but you know, a knock on there. Now it's an attacking scrum to the Americans, and we know how dangerous they are once they get, you know, when we talk about that red zone. You know, every time they've pretty much been into the Russians' half, they've come away with something.
Seconds in, please.
So it's a whole new front row for Russia. Volkov and Zykov, and in the middle, Korshunov.
Set!
Good solid scrum there by the Americans, but all the Russians are coming through. Well done.
No, wait. The ball touched me, it'll be a scrum white. The ball has touched me.
Yeah, terrific competition for places amongst the front row union.
It's going to be their ball.
Yeah, and that'll give the Russians a lot of confidence there. The Americans, like I said early on, they're going for that quick hit to get them over the sort of line of that scrum and to win that ball and get it away quickly. But the Russians did well. They counteracted that and put the weight on and disrupted that scrum for the Americans.
Blue 12.
It's Chris Biller who's down injured. The blonde-haired, loose-head prop is Alexei Volkov from the VVA Pod Moskva club in Moscow, as the name suggests. Biller looks in some discomfort there, the American hooker.
Yeah, they're certainly a big team, this Russians. Obviously, being up here all week coaching RGC, I was sat in my office and I suddenly saw these huge men come walking past me, and I thought, great, I've got some new forwards. But it was the Russian team, and they walked past me, and there was certainly some big blokes there. I'm sure they're eating a lot of meat in that hotel.
Physically, they're solid specimens, but perhaps they lack a little confidence, and that is the biggest task for Kingsley Jones, probably, is to instill confidence in these players, that they are solid citizens of mind as well as of body.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that comes through from I think we've got a turnover ball here for the Americans, and they've done really well to counteract that.
Shaw marshalling his troops again. That's Doyle already on the score sheet. So 8 metres out from the Russian try line. Quick ball, good clean ball. Lestrange into midfield. That's Roland Sunula, who's replaced his brother Andrew.
Another great offload there, getting over that gain line. But once again, it's these American forwards, you know, using the whole width of the pitch, getting over the gain line, getting that quick ball. And once again, Shaw's got that armchair ride, just holding in those two fringe defenders again.
Biller, the hooker, choosing his angle. And again, the ball is made available. It's there for Shaw. He can time his run. Caught there, though, by the Russian defence. Try.
That's better defence by the Russians. They've obviously had a bit of a talking to, and they're getting lower. You can see the two forwards there, lower, stopping them at source. Much better, making it more difficult for the Americans.
So the Russian defence will need their wits about them here again as the ball flies out to Sunula with Emmerich in close support. Far more urgency now in the play of the Russians, but it's still there, though, for the Americans to Peter Dahl from the Belmont Shore Club in San Diego.
5-18.
Change of direction this time, and from Toby Lestrange, but the Russians didn't buy it at all. That was Zykov with a tackle.
18.
He was offside. Still advantage America.
Yeah, they got free ball there. The referee playing advantage there. So they'll attack with this, because at worst they'll come back for the penalty. But better defence by the Russians though in this set of play.
Yeah, plenty of men over on the right. Another pass. It's on its way again though. Hume back into contact and brushing away the tackle, looking to find the gap, the offload, and Shaw is over for a second.
Fantastic. The difference between the two sides is that patience there. Yes, the Russians were defending better, so that's a positive for them. But keeping hold of that ball. Just because you don't score straight away, have the ability to hold on to it. You go through the phases, the team are going to run out of defenders, and once again that offload proves so deadly in the modern game.
Good strength being shown there by Luke Hume, and getting the offload as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's such a great skill to have, but it's one of those skills that you need to practice. You've got to spend so much time, working on the grip, the carry, the ball transference. If you look at the top teams around the world, what separates them is they do those basic skills so well. There's no art or mystique to it. It's about basically nailing those fundamentals time and time again. And the Americans, you can see, they've got a much better grasp and understanding of the basic skills of the game. But they're playing some very good rugby at the moment.
And Wiles getting plenty of kicking practice as well. 15 points to his name already. And this should be a simple conversion attempt for him. Another 2 points, and the USA are out to 40 points against Russia's 14.
Yeah.
Midway through the second half.
Yeah, this could be a long 20 minutes for the Russians now, but it's important that they don't let their heads go down. They've showed when they get a bit of ball and a bit of patience, they can play some rugby. They can do some nice stuff. They've got the back line. They've got to use this now. They've got to use this opportunity to let's see what their backs can do. We've seen them once. They've scored a try. Let's see if they can just keep that defensive pressure on as well.
Number 12. Not 12 point.
So another replacement. Dmitry Gerasimov comes on for, I think it's Alexei Makovetsky.
Hold.
Russian number 12, Russia 14, United States 40 on the hour. Emmerich.
Yeah, good solid take here. Making sure Shaw here. Shaw making sure he's getting his blockers in here to make sure that they get the kick downfield.
Very well organised, aren't they? The US of A, Mike Tolkien, the new coach, took over from Eddie O'Sullivan back in February. Won just one of his first 5 tests, but the USA looking good here for Mike Tolkien's second. 6 tries to the good.
Yeah, with coaching, it's not all about winning. It's sometimes, what people have got to understand, it's about that long-term development. Particularly in rugby, we work in 4-year cycles, so when you take over a job, it's not about, yes, okay, yeah, great, we want to win. Obviously, we all want to win, but it's about saying, right, where do I need to be in 4 years' time? You could see that particularly with Warren Gatlin when he took over the Wales team. He won the Grand Slam and he knew he was losing a lot of the older players, so he said, right, I know what I need to do. I need to bring in the likes of Sam Warburton, Jamie Roberts, build over a 2-year period to get the team right, and they showed the dividends of it. That's what it's all about. It's about long-term development, not just short-term games all the time.
These two teams will get down to the serious business of qualifying for the Rugby World Cup of 2015 in England. That'll happen at the beginning of 2013.
Yeah, and these games are crucial, because there's world ranking points and places in for them. So they're not just friendly internationals. There's games to be won here and points to be gained.
Russia qualified for the Rugby World Cup of 2011 for the first time. Korshunov finding Boltenkov, running 22 for Russia, the replacement.
It was good play there, the shift drive there. They shifted, won it in the middle, and they shifted it back round to the front, and they got some gains down that 5 channel, but Americans given a penalty.
Well, a blonde-haired prop forward was never going to get away with that one, was he?
No, you need to be inconspicuous. You need to shave your hair off at least, or just keep it a nicer sort of dull brown colour so you don't get spotted. If you're going to give away penalties, don't wear dyed hair or a bright scrum hat.
So not surprisingly, Russia kicking for position here. That's Sergei Sugrabov, man from Slava Moscow, a rare individual in professional rugby. He's a one-club man and has been with Slava Moscow for a number of years. Recalled by Kingsley Jones for the Nations Cup back in the summer for the first time in 6 years.
You can send him on.
Yeah, and Russia again, another opportunity here. They did well in that last line-out, that shift drive. What they did is they won the ball, allowed the initial heat from the Americans to come in and just shift the focus of that drive, and they went down that 5-metre channel. I'm sure they'll look to drive it, but the most important thing, what you've got to do with the drive, is not allow it just to die. A lot of teams, they'll drive and drive, the ball will die, and then it's harder for the backs to attack.
Now the concerted effort here from the Russians. They're 5 metres out, they need to control it. It's gone to ground though.
Yeah, I hope he didn't go too early, the man at the back. The maul was going forward, sort of maybe got a little bit of white line fever. It's hard to call from where we are up here, but he just needed to have a little bit of, once again, that word patience. We mentioned it a few times. Desperate to score that try, but you know, you need to sit on the back of the drive while it's going forward. But the Russians look pretty confident that they've scored it.
Thanks.
So who was it that scored then?
I think...
A quick look again at that, but
I think it was one of the back row forwards. I wasn't too sure. It was either 6 or 8. I couldn't quite see from up here.
From the forward effort there from the line-out. A good clean take at the line-out by Vladimir Boltenkov. So let's have a look. Number 6, Temnov rather. Andrei Temnov.
Yeah, good try, but once again, he made it a little bit more difficult than it had to be there. You know, all he needed to do was just have that little bit of patience and sitting behind that drive. But a good try, and once again, you know, brings Russia back into the game, you know, and it's great that, you know, it's not one-way traffic.
Hugh Lewis is the TMO.
This as well, please.
Former Welsh referee. Yeah, just confirmation there from Leighton Hodges whether the try had been scored.
I think what the USA need to do here now is not get into this seesaw sort of situation where, you know, they know they've got the game won, where they score a try and Russia score a try. What they've got to look at, you know, we've been talking about what the Russians need to do in terms of their confidence. What the Americans need to do in this situation is they need to be ruthless. They need to say, right, we need to shut this game down. Because, you know, you look at all the best sides, the All Blacks, you know, when they get 20, 30 points ahead, they don't take their foot off the gas. That's when they say, right, you know, we're going to get to 50, we're going to get to 60, you know, and that's what they need to make sure happens here, the Americans. You know, they have that psychological attitude where they say, right, we want 40, we want 50.
So Kluchnikov. Well, that's a poor kick from Kluchnikov. He can't understand what happened there.
Very good chase though by the Americans. I don't think I've ever had the ability to chase down a conversion. I was always absolutely too shattered.
So Russia 19, USA 40. So Biller, certainly the American hooker, was dispatched to the sin bin. Can't see from here who was dispatched from the Russian side. I think it could well have been the replacement prop, actually, Alexei Volkov. No, he's still on, wearing 17.
Scrum, white ball.
Unlucky there by the Americans. That was a great chase, but we're reaching this situation in the game where we get these wholesale changes. Now, you know, there's two sort of schools of thought on that. You know, one, we want the players to get the opportunity, but you know, at 60-minute mark, we see it in so many games. Suddenly, how the game loses its flow, it loses its emphasis. You know, it just sort of slows the whole game with the changes, and everyone has to bed back into the games.
Zach Fenolio has come on in the middle of that front row for America, so that we have an experienced hooker, and it looks as if it's Alexei Sherban, the Russian scrum half, who's been dispatched to the sin bin, because Sugrabov is now standing in the scrum half position. So when all that was happening on the far side of the field, the substitutions coming on, Leighton Hodges dispatched one player from both sides to the sin bin.
He did it very, very sneakily there, didn't he? I think I don't think anyone noticed it happening. So I don't know what the offences were for. It certainly hasn't been a dirty game by any stretch of the imagination. I think, to be fair, the referee's done very well with it. He's allowed the game to flow. You know, I think he's come down quite hard. I think that early yellow card for taking the player out in the air, I think that certainly set the tone. You know, it said to the players, I'll manage it, let me deal with it.
Who's in?
Sergei Victor Gresev rather standing in the scrum half position now at lineouts for Russia.
Knock forward off White.
It's all a bit scrappy once again as Hume makes it way downfield now. And we're looking for a counter-attack here from Klyuchnikov. The first instinct is to kick, but it's only as good as the chase. Plenty of time for Toby Lestrange to pick his spot. And we're back to where we started.
Yeah, and like I say, with all the substitutions and the yellow cards, it's all just got a little bit scrappy here. But once again, the Russians there in that previous line-out drive, they had the ball, they were going forward, but you could just see that inability to just stay calm in that situation. People were all going for the ball, you know, all wanting to have hold of it, and they spilt it.
Some good line-out takes from Boltenkov since he's come on. Wearing 22 from Imperia Penza.
Back foot, hold back foot, sir. Good.
Sugrubov. Standing in the outside half position was Andrei Garbusov. Lock or flanker from Krasniyar club, and more of a back rower than a lock.
Yeah, much better there by the Russians there, getting over the gain line. But once again, it's slowed down. It's allowing the Americans, look, get off the line, chop them down, hit them behind the gain line. Russians are always on the back foot. Their ball's too slow at the moment.
Boltenkov.
Vantage blue.
In the thick of it once again. Gerasimov, the replacement wing three-quarter centre.
Slowly.
Yeah, and once again, we talk about, in rugby, it's your attacking flow versus the opposition defence fold, and at the moment the Americans' flow is much better than the Russians' fold, and vice versa. You know, the Americans are folding around, getting their defensive numbers in place, knocking the Russians behind the gain line. So the Russian forwards are always working backwards. The backs are never on the front foot. So at the moment it's definitely the American defence that's certainly holding the upper hand in this game.
Inaki Basauri is the replacement in the second row for America, for Brian Doyle. Mike Petrie,
good pressure there.
Long-standing scrum half of the US of A, is on for one of the star players, Robbie Shaw.
Yeah, well, you know, he's the sort of long-standing nine has been there. Certainly the pressure's going to be on him now. You know, Robbie's played a great game, 2 tries. You know, he's probably been the man of the match, and you know, he's certainly laid a marker down.
Americans under pressure, just managing to get that ball away. So 13 minutes remaining. The game, to all intents and purposes, has been won. 40 points to 19, 6 tries.
It's all gone very, very scrappy, and like I say, you know, that doesn't help when you've got your 10 playing at 9, you've got teams both down, and all the substitutions that have been made.
White, move, please. Hold, blue, hold.
Once again, the Russians driving the line-up ball. You know, I know they've scored that try, but in midfield, you know, let's give their backs an opportunity. You know, they've attacked from their backs from first phase once, and they've scored a try. You know, they've used the forwards, it hasn't been working. You know, they've got to have the ability in the game to say, look, plan A isn't working, we need to go to plan B.
Artemiev to Klyuchnikov, big hits coming in on him, but he's done well to retain possession and keep his feet as well. Now then, Sugrubov, can he get it away this time? The backs, as you say, Chris, the Russian backs, they've been redundant for the greater part of this game. Yep. Good to see the likes of Artemiev and Simplikovic getting the ball in their hands.
Yeah, and once again, great step there by the Russian forwards, much better.
Could be a third try on here. It's Garbusov, the long striding replacement. Flank forward, play on, says Leighton Hodges. The Americans are there in numbers to win that turnover. They may have succeeded. Yes, they have. Good defensive work from the United States.
That was great work there by I think it's Scott, the blindside flanker. He did fantastically well. What he did is he worked through and won that space. I mean, it's a great bust here, running at the 10.
Contest won by blue, unplayable. It's going to be a scrum to
and does fantastically well, holds onto the ball. But if you look at 6 here, he comes through, wins that space, nice and positive, great turnover. That's exactly the type of work you want your 6 to be doing.
And he came in through that mythical gate that referees always talk about. Yeah, he had the presence of mind to go round the back of the hindmost foot.
Yeah, and that's when we talk about in terms of that more rugby in them as a team. You know, you look at the Americans, they just look like they've played more rugby, as silly as that sounds, at a higher level, and they've been exposed to it. You know, those cute little things that players at the top level do, they're doing really well. Like I say, that defensive work, all that unseen stuff that when you generally watch the game, you don't sort of notice. It's the fact that they're doing that really well.
Paul Emmerich winning his 51st cap. Almost a decade at the top for the United States. Has played some of his rugby in Wales with the Newport Gwent Dragons and out in Italy as well. So plenty of experience there. And the league set up in America certainly has proven its worth here this evening. And rugby being developed in the schools and colleges now as well. So it augurs well for rugby in the United States. Russia, on the other hand, well, they've taken a backward step over the years, but trying to regroup now and gaining respect and their place in the world order.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, that, like I say, in terms of their rugby development, you know, they're probably a few years behind the Americans, but you know, they've got a great management structure in there. You know, if you want someone like, you know, Kingsley Jones, he's the right type of guy to go in there. He's enthusiastic. Yes, he's passionate about the game, but he knows the game. You know, he's a very, very, very good coach, and he'll get the right coaches in there. He'll develop the talent as it should be.
Yeah, Kingsley Jones, the former Wales captain and Sale Sharks director of rugby, was one of the coaches invited to give their feedback to the IRB on the experience of their teams at the World Cup in New Zealand last year, and that's partly what has led to this inaugural IRB International Series.
No, it's so important that we have these series, and in terms of the tier 2 nations, it's massively important, you know, that they get the exposure, that their players get released. You know, we see it in the World Cup. You know, the tier 2 nations, the longer they spend together as a team, the better they get. You know, but what we need as well is when we look at things like the World Cup, you know, the turnaround when teams play. You know, we look at the Wales Samoa game. Wales had 8 days turnaround, I think it was, and Samoa had 4 days turnaround. It's things like that we need to make sure are right as well.
Yeah, I think that will be addressed when the Rugby World Cup comes to England in 2015. There will be midweek matches, and that won't please some of the top teams possibly, but it'll certainly help the so-called minnows of world rugby. And this will be a permanent fixture. I've been told earlier on this evening that in this November window, this international series will take place when the big nations come to visit the Northern Hemisphere. So we can see and expect more of the Russians and the Americans as Russia then come again out the back door. It's a third try, and a popular try it is too for Andrei Temnov, the Russian back row forward. So they will battle away right to the final whistle.
Fantastic. Once again, that offload, we see how dangerous, and we saw again how that transference of that ball and that skill to deliver that offload was great. But the difference there for the Russians was they were playing on the front foot. The speed of the ball, it was 2-3 seconds rather than, you know, they were using up that whole 5 seconds before they had to play it. They were on the front foot, they were attacking with width, they were asking questions. But here we go, that ball transference and a fantastic offload and a great pickup.
Yeah, the second try for number 6, Andrei Temnov.
Yeah, great work there. He catches it in the right hand, transfers it to the left, gets that fend out, and a great, great offload.
So from the near touchline here, just 3 goals from 6 attempts for Igor Klyuchnikov from the VVA Pod Moskvia club.
Yeah, I'm sure the American coaching staff won't be happy with this. You know, they've certainly been the best team, but they seem to have massively taken their foot off the gas here and allowed the Russians to come back into the game. You know, I'm not saying that the Russians don't deserve the points, they've worked hard for it, but you certainly get that feeling that once the Americans got to 40, they thought, yeah, job was done. You know, and that's something that they need to work on, you know, definitely to say, no, the job is never done until the final whistle goes.
Yeah, there's a marvellous strike from Klyuchnikov as we have another look at that try. Lovely skill, wasn't it, from Ostrushko? Very difficult to offload under pressure, but getting the ball away. And in the meantime, there's an injury to, I think it could well be the replacement Boltenkov. Yeah.
Here we're going to go, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like he's got a bit of a knee injury. I hope it's nothing too serious. I mean, obviously he'll be desperate to play next week, and that's the great thing about this. You know, they've got the opportunity next week to have that second game, and he's up on his feet, so that's good news for him.
And the replacements, I think they've put their hands up for Kingsley Jones, haven't they? You know, he'll have to think long and hard about his selection for next week, because some of these replacements have certainly proved their worth.
Definitely, yeah. I think they've certainly added some sort of emphasis to the team. They've certainly picked up the tempo. The forwards have run a lot harder, but you wonder whether that's the Americans switching off or the Russians stepping up. But I think it's good as a coach to have selection headaches. What you want is you want those situations.
Well, I'll tell you one guy who won't be playing next week.
Yeah, it looks like a nasty knee injury. You hope it's nothing too serious, but it doesn't look good at this point.
I think we're talking ligaments here. By the looks of it, but he's such a big man, isn't he? Yeah, Vladimir Boltenkov, 1.99 meters tall and 118 kilograms. If he thinks he's going to run that off, yeah.
No, we hope that nothing too serious. Particularly with the knees, those ligaments. Like I say, we talk about the impact and the collisions of these games. When you got a 118 kg guy getting hit by another 118 kg guy at pace, it's not surprising that we have these ligament injuries happening. And
when you stand down there on the touchline and you witness virtually firsthand the collisions, it's something to behold.
Yeah, I remember my first season in '96 with Bath when I went professional and playing in the game. 2 or 3 times a game you'd hear a tackle. Nowadays, when you sit down by the side of the game, every tackle you can hear it. You can see the sweat flying off the other player's head. You can hear the wind exhaling from their lungs. It's certainly a brutal sport. I'm glad I'm coaching, not playing these days.
You're listening to former Wales prop Chris Horseman, who's joining me, Wayne Griffith, here in the commentary box at Arias Park, and it's Vladimir Boltenkov being carried off the field of play, to the acclaim of the supporters here in the stand. It's a good crowd for this first match of the inaugural IRB International Series. Tonga, Samoa, Canada as well in the mix here over the next week or so.
I know, it's just great, great to hear the support's giving the player a round of applause when he came off injured. But the great thing, with my RGC hat on as the coach, it's fantastic. There's such a thirst for rugby in North Wales at the moment. We've got the facility, we're a developing region, but to have this, it's absolutely fantastic.
And bearing in mind, we're in a soccer hotbed here, aren't we? Supporters from this area, they would gravitate towards Liverpool and Everton and Manchester City and Manchester United. We're 150 miles away from the capital in Cardiff, probably.
Yeah, definitely. And this is what we found this year. We're in the league structure, and we played a Div 1 East game against Rumney, and we had 2,000 people turning up to watch that local club game for our RGC side. In the under 20 internationals, there were 7,000 people here. So there is a want of rugby here.
So here come the Russians again. They're not done. They're back within 2 converted tries, 6 minutes. Well, I've seen it happen before. That was Ostrushko brought down in midfield, well inside the American 22.
Oh, they've done well there, the Americans counter-rucking. But once again, the Russians, they use the backs of first phase ball, and they've cut the Americans. It just wondered why they didn't do it early on.
Well, 75 minutes and the ball has come out wide to the right. They've got the strike runners behind.
On its feet.
Oh, another good turnover there by the Americans. Yeah, they just seem a little bit more streetwise. But like I say, they've done a set back play twice off a scrum, and both times, once they've scored, the second time they've broken the gain line.
That's the burly Vladislav Kurshunov, the replacement hooker. Both teams back to a full complement of 15. The American forwards congratulating themselves.
Yeah, great work there by Sean Pittman. As a loose head prop, these days props are expected to cover on the wing, but not only did he make a great tackle, straight to his feet, over the ball, getting that turnover. That's some great play there by a prop forward.
Good.
Yeah, Sean Pittman, one of a number of players in the American side that represented the country at the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand last year. So the Americans looking to finish with a flourish here. They have a 14-point lead.
Yeah, they'll certainly be looking to to at least get another try on the board here. They'll want to even though they're going to win this game, they'll certainly want to be finishing on the front foot rather than on the back foot as they seem to be in the last minute. But once again, you can see the difference there with the American kicking game. Fantastic kick in there. Gives the Russians no opportunity to kick it down, but they go, Americans, once again, there's 2 pass, attack the space.
Into midfield, Hume, as the Americans look to stretch the Russian defence one way, then the other.
Use it!
Petrie.
Another great run, the forwards getting over the gain line there. Once again, the 9 always looking to interest those 2 fringe defenders there.
Bringing John Quill, the number 7, into the gap. Man from Yole in East Cork.
No, it's backwards and he's put it into
All
his
getting
hands.
a bit scrappy here.
Yeah, the Russians have pushed the Americans back some 10-20 metres perhaps. Sugrabov slipping once again.
Does well there.
Strushko. Here's a man who can motor.
Yeah, he's had a very good game. Very good game.
And that's where you think if the Russians could get the ball away.
Hold on.
So some 3 minutes remaining of this match. 6 tries to 3, that's the USA advantage. And as the Americans look to build up a head of steam again before referee Hodges blows the final whistle. Lestrange back into the box, but straight down the throat of Sugrabov. Back there covering for the Russians.
Obstruction on the runner.
Crossing is what's been penalised. Obstruction by Leighton Hodges. Sugrabov to kick for territory. I wonder whether the Russians can get one final score here in the 2 minutes or so that remain. That's number 21, Gleb Babkin, winning his first cap off the bench.
Give me a countdown.
Second member of the Slava Moscow club.
Keep going. Keep going. It's off the line.
Clean take.
Some more!
As the Russians look to get that driving, rolling maul going. Not as effective, perhaps, as the Americans' rolling maul, which we've seen once or twice this evening.
Flat pass, no problem.
To Garbusov, the 2 replacements in concert. Greshev, the ball carrier. Sherban.
Is he on or is he off?
Couldn't get that pass away.
Knock on blue.
Referee Hodges waiting for advantage to accrue. A little bit of nonsense off the ball as well. And was that a cynical tackle on Paul Emmerich? Sherban, too clever by half.
14.
Simplikovic with a shove in the back of Paul Emmerich.
Be careful, okay?
Done some damage by the looks of it.
Hey.
No, we've seen 3 yellow cards already. It's
Lads, I don't care. Come here. Wait. That is not in the spirit of the game, regardless of what you think, okay?
Luke Hume getting the lecture from Leighton Hodges.
Check now.
So approaching the final minute.
There's still going to be a scrum for a blue knock-on. Just over a minute, okay?
Emmerich back on his feet. Hard-hitting, tough defender as well.
The mark is on the
Paul
AR there,
Emmerich.
lads, okay? And where
Most experienced player on the park, certainly for the US of A.
Okay. Time back
So they'll
on.
come back
It's a knock forward
for
blue,
the
no advantage
knock-on
white.
by the American player.
White ball.
So a last throw of the dice here then for Russia. 1 or 2 of the replacements have certainly caught the eye, and will certainly be in the reckoning when Kingsley Jones comes to pick his team for next weekend's match. Notably, the number 19, Andrei Gorbusov, a solid-looking front row unit on for Russia now as well, in Korshunov, Volkov and Zykov. But I should think that Snobiladze, the hooker that started this match, will feature. Last 30 seconds, then 6 tries for the US of A.
Just put some height.
2 of them for the
side.
scrum half Robbie Shaw.
Okay, time back on, please.
For our money here in the commentary box is certainly deserving of Man of the Match award. So a last chance for Russia to get a score, which will bring greater respectability to the score line, the final score line. But it's not going to happen, is it, for Russia, as the USA have a chance here to clear their lines. And they can congratulate themselves on a job well done. They've looked far more proficient than their opponents. So for the third time running then in the clashes between these two teams, the Americans will come out on top and provide a second win for newly appointed coach Mike Tolkin. Leighton Hodges blows the final whistle to bring this first game of the doubleheader programme here tonight at Aries Park in Colwyn Bay, North Wales, to a close. Congratulations all round for the American Eagles. And they can be satisfied with a job well done, with a final score line which reads Russia 26, United States 40. So let's have a look at some of those tries scored in this opening match in the inaugural IRB International Series for second-tier nations, and which is going to become a permanent fixture now in the IRB calendar. That was a try from Andrei Temnov for Russia. That's Toby Lestrange, the debutant, getting his try. Solid, concerted drive there from the American forwards, bringing a try for Brian Doyle. And this was a well-taken try for American fullback Chris Wiles. 21 points to 9 at the break. Robbie Shaw, what an armchair ride for the 65 minutes or so he was on the field. And look at this offload here from Luke Hume. And again, on his shoulder, Robbie Shaw, the scrum half. For my money, certainly the man of the match.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very, very warm welcome to a wonderful singer who at the moment lives in Surrey, originally from Bechtel in Cameron, Charlotte Terry!
So we can hear now from the American captain, Todd Cleaver, who's speaking to my co-commentator here, Chris Horseman.
Okay, I'm here with the winning captain, Todd. First of all, congratulations, Todd. How's the head?
Yeah, no, it's fine, no problem.
Yeah, okay. You must be very pleased with the game today. Your forwards, you must be very pleased in terms of how they've played today.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you know, we dropped off a little bit, but you know, I'm proud of the guys, and for the most part, we played really well.
Yeah, you certainly seem to have the edge, particularly around the fringes, in not just in terms of your pick-and-go game, but in terms of your defence. Is that something you look to focus on this week, knowing how big the Russians are in terms of that pick-and-go game?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, they're a big physical side, so we had to tighten it up and had to make our tackles. You know, they showed late in the game that they're a strong team and they're dangerous. We had to put them on the ground, so we did enough early in the game to seal the victory. Yeah,
certainly your forwards did fantastically well. Another facet of the game which was really good was your halfbacks. Obviously, third cap for your 9 today. He came in, scored 2 tries. You know, he's obviously a fantastic player. You know, how did you rate his performance today?
Yeah, no, he's great. I mean, he's a good leader on the team, coming in with a great experience, and he's dangerous around the fringes. And you know, we just need to learn how to run off him a little bit better. And you know, he's dangerous with ball in hand.
Yeah, good performance. Slightly disappointed with the last 20 minutes. I know you made a lot of changes. You know, obviously you still won the game by 40 points, but is that something you'll look to work on this week, going into next week's game, about closing the game down and maybe being a bit more clinical in terms of defence in that last 20?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have a lot of new faces in our guys, and we had quite a few you know, new caps. So so it's good to get those guys experience and, you know, give them top level rugby, some test rugby. So you know, for the most part they did well, but you know, it's good to have a victory, and there's a lot of things to work on.
Oh, well done on tonight, and I hope you enjoy North Wales and look forward to seeing you next week.
Absolutely, thanks very much.
Cheers, thank you.
Todd Cleaver, the victorious USA captain, and hopefully we can hear now from Vasily Artemyev, the Russian centre, again speaking with Chris Horseman.
Disappointed with the result tonight, I'm sure, but a lot of positives from your performance tonight?
Yeah, I think we've shown a glimpse of what we can do sometime in the second half. I think when we're getting a good fast ball, we're getting forwards around. I think we can get on the front foot and really create some danger. And we scored a couple of tries, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah, there was certainly some fantastic play by you once you managed to get on the front foot. You played particularly heavily through the forwards in the first sort of 40-50 minutes of the game. Was that something you were looking to do early on, maybe to tie the Americans down with the size of your pack?
Well, partially. I think we struggled a little bit at the start with the pace of the game. I thought we haven't played together in a while, so I thought we were a bit rusty at times. But when we got moving in the second half, when we moved around the pitch a little bit more, especially in the American half, I thought we created some good ball and some dangerous plays. Yeah.
Yeah, you certainly, as the game wore on. So obviously, looking at the last 20 minutes, that'll give you a lot of confidence moving to next week's game in terms of, building. Look at the positives. Yeah, there were things you need to work on, but certainly that last 20, they'll give you some positives to work on.
Yeah, definitely. I think having missed a few one-on-one tackles in the first half, we felt a bit down, and but we managed to gather ourselves and show a good performance in the last 20, and I think that's the way we need to start the next game. And yeah, everyone will be looking to come out and rectify their errors. So I think it'll be an even more exciting game next week.
Oh well, thanks for speaking to us, and enjoy North Wales as well.
Yeah, very much.
Cheers.
So, yeah.